Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
It wouldn't be the holiday season if there wasn't candy, right? Celebrate the holiday season with the Holiday Crush. They've sprinkled candy with a holiday theme and fun-packed challenges every week for 5 whole weeks, finishing on January 4th. The more challenges you complete, the better your chances of unwrapping delicious rewards. So, are you ready to crush the holidays? Play the Holiday Crush now. Download it from the App Store, Google Play, or Windows Store for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt. Als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straße.
Hello and welcome to Gegenpressing, Bundesliga podcast from the Football Grad Network. I'm your host Bryce Dunn. As always, I've got my two guests with me, but something a little bit different this week. But I'll introduce them first. Chris, how's your week been?
Very fast. Lots and lots of stuff about Naby Keita. Loads of Liverpool interest on that, so I've been on that. And then obviously we've had managers coming and going in the Bundesliga and loads of transfer stuff. And then finally the season's completely over now, isn't it, with last night's Champions League. So we're all looking forward to pre-season. But wow, yeah, we've got some real good stuff to talk about this week. Really excited for it.
Yeah, we always say German sides do their business early, and well, there's been plenty of going on, good things and bad things, I suppose, if you look at it in different ways. But yeah, joining Chris and I, as always, is Manuel Veth. Manu, how's your week been, or dare I ask?
Chaotic. Yeah, I guess the last person has probably heard about 1860 bust up, the fall from grace. Got relegated to the third division, only to find out that we don't actually have the license for the third division, and now we're fourth division. And I'm in Munich right now, and it is my club, and I've been covering it very closely, and very surprised actually about the echo of it. How many people still have an interest in the side. Yeah, it's been a crazy week, and we're gonna definitely talk quite a bit about it, I think, on this pod.
Yeah, I think you'll find that will probably be our main and our first topic, but we'll get back to that in a little second. For a change, and the first time ever on the Gegenpressing podcast, we've actually got another guest. We've got Max Riegel. Max, thanks for coming on. And how about you not just introduce yourself, but tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for the offer. I really appreciate that I can talk to you here, because I was an admirer of your show for quite some time, and you're delivering quality content every week. So thanks for that. Yeah, I'm started to write about football and the Bundesliga and English football and Liverpool on Twitter 1.5 years ago, and got involved with this fascinating community, and there I got in touch with Manu and Chris and talked a bit to them, and Manu invited me to come on this time to discuss the recent events from Bundesliga. As you may hear from my accent, I'm from Germany as well, and I was in Berlin as Chris last weekend for the TSV Pokal final, and watched quite a lot of football last week, as well as Manu probably did. And yeah, looking forward to talk to you about the recent events in the Bundesliga now.
Yeah, well, once again, thank you very much for coming on, and I'm sure we'll get you involved with all the topics that are coming up. But yeah, we're going to have to go back to Manu on this. Manu, you do sound a little bit downtrodden, and I think there's a strong reason for that, isn't there? For anyone who doesn't know, 1860 Munich Manu's side, we're playing in Bundesliga 2 this season. Yeah, new manager, they had new players. Everyone was quite hopeful, but I think unfortunately things didn't go very well, did they? They ended up in the relegation playoff. And yeah, as of this week, they lost that and were to drop down a division, but it didn't quite turn out that way, did it, Manu? I mean, can you just explain for everyone what exactly has happened to the club over recent years and is going to happen to them now?
Yeah, guess we've spoken previously on Hasan Ismail, the investor, who owns 60% of the KGaA. So the KGaA is not the club; it's the part of the club that runs the professional football of 1860. So he became the big investor in 2011 because the club faced bankruptcy at the time, and invested quite a bit of money into the side from 2011 to now, with various ups and downs, coaching changes, management changes, and a lot of money. He has sunk in the region of 70 to 100 million euros into 1860, which is a lot of money, especially in the second division in Germany. Now, the results have been bleak at best. I mean, this was the third year in a row the club was playing against relegation. The last 2 seasons, 3 years, of course, they were saved at the last second by Kai Bülow's goal against Holstein Kiel in the relegation playoffs. Last year, it was on match day 33 where they beat Paderborn, who then, as a result, went down, actually, and stayed in the Bundesliga too. And this year, of course, they went actually down against Jan Regensburg after drawing 1-1 in Regensburg, which actually gave them the edge. And then, losing 2-0 in Munich. But at that point, as we know now, the club more or less was already facing a major crisis. Ian Eyre, the manager, was signed to bring order to the club, resigned the morning before the game, because it appeared that the money that the club needed, which for the Bundesliga 2 was 20 million euros, that there was a huge jeopardy that Ismail wouldn't transfer the money, because Ismail made heavy demands to change the structure. And a lot of these demands were not in compliance with German law or the rules set by the DFL, which is the body that runs Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2. And there was already a general feeling that 1860 wouldn't get the license for Bundesliga 2. Now, when they did get relegated, the 20 million shrunk to 12 million euros that they had to show that they had by Friday at 3:30 p.m. So this is last Friday. And they had to negotiate with Ismail because he's the only one who was able to guarantee that sum. And Ismail made demands that, again, could not be met because, these demands included that the club would sign over the naming rights, all the titles, etc., from the Stammverein, which is the e.V., or the associated club or membership club, to the KGaA, which is the association that runs the professional team. But, DFB and DFL rules state that that's not possible. And he also wanted to sign over all the youth teams, but youth teams have to, technically speaking, run on amateur level, so they could not be signed over to the KGaA as well. So he made these demands, and these demands could not be met. And he then, when the decision makers at 1860 wrote back to him saying that these demands can't be met, he just wrote back, there will be no more communication until the demands are met. So 3:30 passed on Friday, and the club was without a Liga 3 license. And as a result has been demoted to the 4th division. Since then, it's been rather crazy here in Munich. I mean, I'm here right now, and it's been, a lot of you may have seen, I've been tweeting about the club. I've been to the club. I've been the show that's really going on there. There were several thousand people on Friday at the Geschäftsstelle, so the headquarters of the club, and it's been a circus, for lack of better terms. And there's a lot of people now that are saying this is good that they're getting demoted because there's hope that there could be a future without Ismail. But Max, we talked a little bit about that. It's not that simple, isn't it? Because even if you go down to the 4th division, we technically haven't gotten rid of him.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't automatically leave when you're going down, because Ismail himself declared many, many times on Facebook that he will stay forever with the club. And it seems like he's just trying everything to get more power at 1860 Munich. It's a very difficult situation at the moment because you basically have the two different structures. On the one side, the relegated professional football team who were excluded from the normal membership club a few years ago. And on the other side, the powerful people inside the main club. And they, as you outlined in the last minutes, are just on so many different levels in disagreement that it will be, difficult to find a solution, because they can't even play in the 4th or 5th division without, finding a solution, because Ismail is still demanding to get so much power, more than the 50+ run rule allows him. And the Bavarian Football Association changed their rules, so they also included the 50+ run paragraphs into their competition laws, and it's impossible to find a solution without Ismail accepting that the 50+ run rule still stands at the moment, or he's trying to challenge it in front of court, but that will certainly take longer than 1 or 2 months, and then the next season already starts. And if 1860 Munich don't play football next season, they might never play football again. So that's a very, very conflict situation, and nobody really knows how to solve the problems at the moment.
Yeah, from what I get is that the vice presidents yesterday, Sitzberger and Schmidt, and now the new president Reisinger, they have basically guaranteed that there will be football because there's enough money to play fourth league, even without Ismail, right? The next important date is July 2nd, because that's when the membership club gets together to vote on the Aufsichtsrat, so the CEO, the board of directors. And there is now motions that Ismail will be excluded. They have the power to do this, of course. It's difficult, but they have the power to do this. And the fact that the main sponsor is staying on, the Bayerische, which is an insurance company here in Munich, and they're actually staying on, and they're paying everyone who wants to become a member. So this is a great time to become an 1860 member, because they're paying everyone who wants to become a member the membership fee from now till December 31st. If you become a member of 1860, they will be paying for it. Definitely a good time for me to renew my membership fee. But so they have that. Then the amount of money that they got in Bundesliga 2 from that sponsorship deal is more than enough to secure playing, 4th league. It will in fact make them the richest team in that division by far. The problem, of course, is that July 2nd, and you mentioned this, there's a lot of division in this club. There is a lot of fan associations out there that support Ismail, and there's a lot of fan associations out there who are against him. So we have this July 2nd meeting coming up, and we basically don't know what exactly is going to happen. I think the insurance company, the Bayerische, is very much against Ismail, and I think part of the drive of getting them to sign up members is to get people to sign up and vote and get the voting rights, right? Which is, of course, a good way to do it. There's always been local groups of investors in Munich who wanted to get more power in the club and, put it more on local footing, and maybe they are part of it. But there's a lot of things we don't know, because as we speak, I get live updates and I get information on my cell phone, because it's changing. And Peter Kasalec just spoke up, the president under Ismail, who was very pro-Ismail, and he accuses the membership club of a whole bunch of things. And then you hear the stories from the membership club, and they're excusing Ismail of a few things. It's for me personally, it's a very difficult situation, because I don't know. I am wavering between the two camps all the time as a fan. And I find it very difficult to really place myself in one camp or the other right now.
And Manu, where do most of the fans sit at the moment? Are they going to do something like protest to get Ismail out, or what exactly is their stance? What do they see the best outcome being?
That's the difficult thing. I've seen the AGE. So the AGE is an association of regional 1860 fans. They're very pro Ismail, and they're one of the biggest fan groups of the club. And they're very powerful, and they're very pro Ismail. But then there's the group called the Pro 60er Stadion, an active fan group that want to see the club return to the Grünwalder Stadion. And they are, of course, very anti-Ismail. They are the traditionalists. They want the club to return to its roots. They want the club to return to Giesing, and they want Ismail gone. And they are the ones that are in power now. And they have a large fan following too. And this has always been the thing about 1860, and the difficult thing about this. The fans, there's a very large group of fans that want to see 1860 become a powerful, strong club in Germany. And then there's a lot of fans out there that have that working class root in Munich and Giesing that want to see the club being deeply rooted into the city of Munich. And it's a very difficult scenario, because it's almost like a political party that has two camps that in a sense support the same overall platform but have very different ways of getting there. And that's where it stands. So when you say, okay, well, what do fans think? You ask 10 different fans, you will get 10 different opinions, and half of them will be pro Ismail in one degree, and the other half will be against Ismail in some degree. And that makes it very hard, because, we have that membership meeting July 2nd. We don't know how the members are going to vote. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to vote, because I'm planning to get my membership and I am going to vote, but I don't know yet which way I'm going to vote.
And not to exclude you, Chris, you'll have plenty to talk about as we get onto especially management conversations. But Max and Manu, I mean, I take it this kind of thing's a bit of a rarity. You don't see it happening very often in German football, or do you guys know of other clubs that it has happened over the years?
Well, Frankfurt, right, Max? That's always been, when I was a kid in the 1990s and the early 2000s, that club was anything but an Eintracht, a unity. I think it's only been really the last year or so that there has been some sort of stability.
Yeah, that's interesting that you've mentioned that, because 1 year ago, the former CEO Heribert Prohagen left the club and is now in Hamburg. And he was always the symbolization of stability, at least the press and the fans called him that. But it appears that now that he left, there is actually stability, because there has been many management changes over the years, and the coaches have probably spent between 1 and 2 years in Frankfurt, and then they left, especially with Armin Fee. I think it was around 2013. He always signed 1-year agreements because there was such an uncertain future in Frankfurt. But now there is the new director of football, Bruno Hübner, and the new CEO, Freddy Bobic. And they are doing quite a good job to get a good connection to the fan base. And Freddy Bobic himself has, when I can comment on that from the outside, I think that he has quite a good of network in football, especially to other clubs and to investors. So there is a lot of talk about that Tesla, the American car manufacturer, might come to Frankfurt as their new sponsor, which would be quite a huge deal for them. And there have been many problems in the past to fulfill their potential, because, as you may know, Frankfurt is one of the five biggest cities in Germany, and there are many different financial companies in Frankfurt, and it shouldn't be a problem to build a team that is stronger than Freiburg and Mainz. But apparently it has been a problem in the last years, which is not really understandable from the fans' point of view. And if they get their things right now, there might be the final opportunity for them to get into the higher level of Bundesliga football to compete with the likes of Schalke or Gladbach, because from the city's potential in itself, it's definitely possible to be stronger than they are now. So they are always dreaming of European football, and they reach it maybe once in 10 years, and then the other years they are always in the bottom half of the table or even fight against relegation. So I'm a Frankfurt fan myself, and I'm quite confident looking into the future now, because they actually seem to be convinced that spending money is a good thing, and spending money on the right players is always a good thing, and they might be able to improve their squad this year after mainly focusing on loans last year. So Michael Hector from Chelsea and Vallejo from Real Madrid. So they bought elite level players, but only for a year because they couldn't afford them on the long term. But now they broke their transfer record for Sebastian Haller, who cost 7 million. The previous transfer record was just 4 million. So it seems like the things are heading into the right direction now, and the club has now already spent more money than they ever did in one transfer window, and it hasn't even opened yet. So it's quite positive, especially after the DFB Pokal finale, which was a highlight for the whole fan base, even though they lost. But yeah, it's a good mood in Frankfurt now, and the chaotic days of the mid-2000s seems to be over now.
Max, I'm curious, Freddy Bobic has been one of those managers that has been very outspoken against 50+1 and thinks that the rule is going to fall. And, we've been now speaking about 1860 and everything that's going on, and the possibility that Ismaik is going to sue against the rule. And we all know the rule is on very weak legal footing, and that it is likely that he's going to win. How long it's going to take is another matter, but he is going to win if he sues against this rule. How has that been followed in other German cities? And this is I'm curious about, because with Freddy Bobic's stand, wouldn't they be really positive about what's happening there?
In Frankfurt in general, there has always been this feeling of being a bit different than other clubs, because the fans are very vocal there and always raise their opinion against capitalism and want to stay local, but at the same time want to become a very big club. So similar to the situation in 1860 Munich. But I'm now convinced that the recent success of the club is an indication that the fans might be happy if the 50+1 rule comes to an end and a bigger investor comes in. Because there has always been talks about many different airlines from the Arabic states, or many different financial service institutes from Germany wanted to invest, but nobody really brought that together in the end, and there have always been loose talks about it, but never really successful investment. And the sponsorship deals to Frankfurt always just brought the club like 4 or 5 million a year, and that's not good enough if you don't have another financial source to buy some players. So if the 50+1 rule comes to an end very soon, I think that Frankfurt will be one of the clubs who can turn it to a better side for their club, because they have a potential and there are always interesting commercial opportunities for them, but they've never been finalized by the club. So Freddy Bobic, as you mentioned, is a very progressive CEO and has good connections into different economies, and it's actually heading into the right direction in Frankfurt, and the fans have accepted that he brought this new spirit to them, because they've been convinced that Bobic would be a bad appointment and maybe would leave within 1 year because he had a bad track record in Stuttgart. But if they find enough investors after the 50+1 rule is brought to an end, I think that the fan base would be absolutely fine with that.
So, Chris, if we continue to talk about the 50+1 ruling, I mean, in Germany, who exactly wants that to stay in place? Is it just the purest fans, do you believe? Because surely all the clubs with the likes of investments that we see in the Premier League and other leagues around Europe, surely they just enjoy being able to spend 30, 40, 50, 70, 100 million on players. And surely the clubs would like this, and maybe some of the fans, but the purists, I suppose it goes against what they believe, right?
Yeah, it does. It's a hard one. It's a very fine line, isn't it? Because German football's revered all around the world for what it offers. So let's look at what it offers. It offers exceptionally cheap tickets, be that stand-in or be that sat down. It also has a really competitive league, and we saw that this year, that the clubs are finely balanced. I know Bayern ran away with it in the end by, in excess of 10 points, I think it was, but there's still that time where Bayern going out and beating teams 6 and 7-0 isn't happening as much as it used to do. So the whole league's a little bit closer. I think that's because no one is dripping in money like Chelsea are, or is able to use it in the way that Chelsea or Manchester City are. So there's a massive disparity, if you look in England, between the very rich and the very poor, even though the very poorest of teams in the Premier League get a hell of a lot of money. Some of them more than the top teams in the likes of the Bundesliga and the Liga. So it's a hard one to say that you should get rid of it. It is a typically German rule, and fundamentally it's a German ruling, and it does allow the football clubs to remain at the heart of the community. You only have to look at, very briefly, you only have to look at Liverpool to see that how, local people will say that the heart of the club has been ripped out of the community because of the commercialisation, but then on the outset, it's been able to bring in managers like Jurgen Klopp, it's been able to bring in players from all around the world. But would that be sacrificed for better for fans if they could get in cheaper? So I think it would make the league more popular. But then we also have to remember it's happened a little bit already. If you look at the likes of Borussia Dortmund, who are part owned by Evonik and are part owned by Puma, then we can look at Bayern Munich, who are part owned by Audi and Adidas. So there's commercialization creeping in. I think it's difficult if it was to be gotten rid of incomplete. I think the very aura and the very heartbeat of German football may fall out. But as we've said so many times on this podcast before in the past, it's only one legal challenge away, and we could be about to see that all fall around because of what's about to happen.
So if I just ask one more question on the 50+1 rule. I'm gonna bring it to all of you guys, and I want stay or go with the ruling. You don't even have to explain yourself if you don't want to, but would you rather the 50+1 stay in place, or would you rather it went? Manu, stay or go?
Oh, this is one that I'm wavering on so much. And you can ask me several times a day, and I will give you different answers. The reason for that is because, on the one hand, I really like the idea that I can become a member of a club and I can vote and form decisions, right? On the other hand, I don't think investors necessarily would stop that. Just because, investors are coming in or become owners, I think they would always have to deal with the base club, just because the way German clubs are multi-sport associations. I think the 50+1 rule is a rule. It's not a law. It's very doubtful it will stand up in a court of law. And I quite often tend to say that it needs to go. And the reason it needs to go is because I look at clubs like Eintracht Frankfurt or Stuttgart. And Stuttgart, we're going to talk about in a moment, because they have landed a major investor. And because of where they're based, as cities, they should be competitive with Bayern München. And they are not, because, over the years, Bayern München have developed such a huge gap that cannot be caught up with financially without the help of outside money. And I think for the league where we want to have 4 or 5 teams challenging for the title every season, it's not going to happen with the 50+1 rule. And that's where I find myself more often than not say it probably should go.
Interesting. Max, if we go to you, would you rather it stay or go?
Yeah, I actually agree with Manu on that one. I think that it's better for German football when the 50+1 rule comes to an end very soon, because there are already exceptions to the rule. Bayern 04 Leverkusen and VfL Wolfsburg and Hannover 96, as well as Hoffenheim, don't even fall under this category because they have a financial investor for more than 20 years. So there is no really fair competition in the Bundesliga at the moment, either because the clubs have built their own profile for so many years, like Bayern Munich, who run away from the rest of the league, or because the investors are allowed only for certain clubs because they have invested for 20 years. And on the one hand, this rule will likely come to an end as soon as it's legally challenged. But on the other hand, many other clubs will have an investor for more than 20 years very soon. And then these clubs can be excluded from the 50+1 rule as well. So there are no really long-term advantages anymore because as Manu mentioned, the competitive edge of some clubs might come to an end anyway. So I think that it would be the fairest way to deal with the Bundesliga clubs to just, finish off this fantastic chapter of Bundesliga football and open themselves to the global market at once for every club, because then you can compete with the likes of Bayern Munich and RB Leipzig if you are presenting yourself as a serious business opportunity, while also holding that strong connections to your fans. So if you're going to communicate it right, and if you're going to get an investor who is agreeing on talking to the fan base about the more important subjects, I think that it has many, many positive aspects. And it will definitely improve the international competitiveness of the league if you just and check the recent results. No football club except Bayern Munich or Borussia Dortmund are relevant on the international stage, if you're honest. Maybe Leipzig will change that, but it's not good for the league if you have just 3 clubs who are competing for the title year in and year out. And even this is a myth because Bayern Munich are way better than the other 2 clubs. And then in comparison to the Premier League, where 6 clubs are going into next season and say, we want to win the title, it is definitely better to end the 50+1 rule very soon.
So that's 2 votes for go. Chris, what are you going to say? Are you going to say stay or go?
I'm going to say stay, and I base that on the fact that I think fans having a direct input into how a club is run is what people are crying out for in England. I've seen it go the other way. Whilst I think the investment within the Bundesliga would be right for all that the guys have said, it doesn't stop people coming in and asset stripping clubs. So there will be people who believe me, would like to go into Borussia Dortmund or would like to go into Bayern Munich and buy them and just asset strip them. And we've seen that happen throughout the Premier League, and you've seen teams who have been challenging for European spots and winning FA Cups like Portsmouth. All of a sudden they find themselves in like League 2, so the very bottom tier of professional English football. So I understand why it's needed, and I do understand the competitive element, but I've also seen, especially in this country, how it can go badly wrong when you get people who just want to buy into a football club because of what it can give them, not what they can give to it. And I think the 50+1 rule allows those who are very much in love with the club, i.e. its members, which is majority of fans, it gives them the power to veto the likes of Gillett and Hicks to come in and completely try and downtrodden a club and just completely strip it for their own worthwhile. I understand there needs to be a happy medium. Whether that can be reached or not is a completely different matter. But if it was to go for me, I think the power base that is crucial within German football would pretty much disappear, and then it's open season. And from a personal perspective, I've seen so many teams in this country ruined by investors who aren't interested in the football club. They're interested in what it can do for them.
Yeah, I just want to add something to this though, real quick. The 50+1 rule didn't stop Hassan Ismail, and I think if the 50+1 rule hadn't existed when 1860 was facing bankruptcy, they could have chosen a better investor. And I think a lot of people are always pointing at Hassan Ismail and saying that's the reason why we need to have the 50+1 rule. But Hassan Ismail is a child of the 50+1 rule. I think if the 50+1 rule hadn't existed, then we could have gone to big companies or more serious investors and said, look, we have this product here. We have a club with a lot of tradition and history, etc. And you can approach and sell a product to a majority owner right? But we had to find someone who was willing to come in as a minority owner to accept that rule. And we were, at that point, well, long term, we weren't lucky, but at that moment, we were lucky enough that we found someone who didn't understand the 50+1 rule, who didn't have the right people, giving him the right advice at the time. And I think, there's been a lot of finger pointing towards Ismail and 1860 as a bad example for what happens if the 50+1 rule goes. But I think these people forget that he took control of what happened, and the club fell to the 4th division while 50+1 was in place. And I think that's something that we need to look at. And I agree with a lot of what you say, Chris. I think there needs to be some kind of measures that the club needs to stay rooted. And I think the big clubs like Bayern and Dortmund, they will never become owned by a majority owner. I think that's just not going to happen. They're not structured for it. So while I think the rule needs to go, I think there needs to be some sort of balance, because open season, that echoes with me, because that's what's going to happen if we do it the English way.
Well, you're talking about different investors coming in, but let's talk about players coming in and out. So let's move on to transfer talk. Chris, we're going to go to you on this one. I mean, obviously you've got a bit of a tie with Liverpool, and they seem to be linked with just about every decent player in the league. One especially is Naby Keita of RB Leipzig. Do you want to repeat once again whether he's going to sign for Liverpool or not?
Wow, so this is pretty much what I've been doing all week, Bryce. So as you will well know, regular listeners to the pod, Liverpool born and bred Liverpool fan. Right for This Is Anfield, which is a massive Liverpool independent website, one of the oldest. But this week I wrote a piece for them and then was asked to go on a Red Men TV and also do another piece for one of the other smaller independent sites, Rousing the Cop. There's a massive interest in Naby Keita to Liverpool for the for the reason that for what we've seen him do all year. He's a massive coherent part of that quick transition that Leipzig are so good at, and how they can turn a defence into attack inside 3-4 seconds. So unsurprisingly, he's wanted as a centre midfielder. And by all accounts, by the mainstream media in the UK, he is a number one target for Liverpool. Now, this is without Liverpool coming out and saying anything. So it's very rare for a team to come out and say, yep, he's our number one target. And that hasn't happened. It's been bubbling on in the background. And, luckily enough for me, and Manu was there also. We were in Leipzig, probably 4 weeks ago now, Manu, isn't it? And, that's when this story was starting to bubble under, that Liverpool were exceptionally interested in him. Now, there can be a lot of arrogance in England that, once a Premier League team's interested, every other club in the world will bend over and just take the money and let the player go. Well, in RB Leipzig, they won't find that. And my own opinion is, and that's formed by speaking to people, on the day, as we did when we were there, Leipzig are there to challenge. They've openly stated that the Bundesliga is something that they want to get their hands on, as is a Champions League trophy. So you don't let your best players go. Hasenhüttl said time and time again that Keita's a relevant cog in his Leipzig machine, and CEOs come out and said, we're not selling players this year, and there's nothing to state that they won't. There's a lot of chat Liverpool-wise about, well, if we just go in with, a 35, 40 million pound, 50 million euro offer, they'll just take it. I think a lot of people forget who Leipzig are owned by, in inverted commas. They're owned by Red Bull, one of the world's biggest soft drinks manufacturers. You're talking about a multi-billion pound industry who start sports clubs because that's what they want to do. They do the X Games, they do that crazy air race. They've got football clubs all over the world on every continent pretty much now. So I can't see them selling Naby Keita, not in this window. No matter how much Liverpool throw at them, he's under contract. And we saw earlier on in the season, didn't we, that if a player's under contract with Leipzig and he's wanted, they'll just say you're not going. And Emil Forsberg was the big, was the person that heard that the most, when reportedly he wanted to say in January he was open to a move away, but be that to England, be that to Spain, wherever. He was told, no, you're staying. And then, unsurprisingly, he signs a deal which keeps him there longer. Naby Keita is key to RB Leipzig, and RB Leipzig are in the Champions League group stages next year. I can't see him moving, especially when he's got no release clause in his contract until this time next year, and then it's going to be £50 million as well, or sorry, €50 million, or around about there, €52 million release clause. There's more fuel added to the fire this week because apparently Leipzig are interested in signing Konrad Lammer from Salzburg. So he's taken the exact path that Keita would if he came in. He's also a central midfielder, and I think all Leipzig are doing there is strengthening. They're going to be fighting on three fronts next year. They want to do well in the Pokal, they want to do exceptionally well in the Bundesliga, and they want to make their mark on the Champions League and get through to the knockout stages. So they're going to bring in more players, especially in the areas where they're strong already. So I can't see it happening this season. It's all gone very quiet as well, by the way, in the English press about Naby Keita coming to Liverpool. I've said it time and time again. I've said it till I'm blue in the face. I can't see him coming this season, or I can't see him leaving RB Leipzig this season. Maybe next season, depends how Leipzig get on in the Champions League and how their assault on the Bundesliga goes. If they do as well as they've done this season, why would he leave?
And Chris, can you see any of these Bundesliga players that are being linked with Liverpool actually making the move there?
Hard, isn't it? So we've seen names come and go. So Julian Brandt was highly tipped as someone who would be coming to Liverpool. That's sort of fallen off the radar now. Timo Werner was mentioned, but for the same reasons as why Leipzig wouldn't sell Naby Keita. I think they wouldn't sell Timo Werner either. Tar from Leverkusen was mentioned. That's fallen off the radar. I said it the other day, actually, to Redmen TV, and I'll say it again to all our listeners. It's not lazy journalism to put Bundesliga players with Jurgen Klopp, because that's what he knows. I think it's convenient journalism, and sometimes convenient journalism sells papers. It also sells advertising space on websites. So take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, Brandt is, from what I've heard, he's leaving Leverkusen. I wrote in an article myself that, that Liverpool seems to be a good option for him because Klopp wanted to sign him when he was still at Dortmund, right? It was Dortmund or Leverkusen back when he was still playing in youth level for Wolfsburg as an 18-year-old. That said, the only information that I have is that he's going to leave Leverkusen and that his likely destination is not going to be a Bundesliga club. So you can think about that what you want, right? But I think the Keita one in particular is a very interesting one because it's, Max, the two of us, we chatted a bit about that on Twitter. It's a good example of what journalists do when they get their teeth onto something, right? They almost push it in a way because it's an obvious link. And Keita has done very well, I've known from chatter that had come out of Leipzig that Keita has asked to leave, and Rasenballsport Leipzig has said no way, no one is leaving. Forsberg was another one who has hinted that he wanted to leave, and the club has very quickly said no one is leaving. We're talking about Red Bull here, right? A company that never in anything that they have done half-measure things. They have always gone full throttle. So they're not going to change it here. And I expect that no player will leave that squad. You mentioned Lammer from Red Bull Salzburg. My information is that deal is done. They just have to wait for the UEFA licensing to come through because they're very careful right now about not appearing to have too strong of a link between the two clubs. So they have to be careful transferring players back and forth between Salzburg and Leipzig at the moment. For all the obvious reasons. So I think that deal is done. Rumour to Leipzig is done too. So this is a club, they're buying, they're not selling. And
Max, as Manu mentioned, about transfers, your side, Frankfurt, they've made a record signing this week. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about this and maybe who else they've brought in, who else they maybe need or have been linked with?
Yeah, sure. Frankfurt has the problem that many of their key players this season are only loaned out from bigger clubs. So the likes of Vallejo and Hector and Varela from Manchester United are all going to leave the club this summer again, as well as Wolf to Hannover 96 and Tarashai back to Everton. So Yeah, it's questionable whether they will replace them again with another spread of many loans, because that's not sustainable in the long term. There is no point in bringing in 8 different players every summer and then lose them automatically because you can't sign them permanent. Frankfurt has the problem that their 2 goalkeepers, Lukas Radetzky and Heinz Lindner, are both going to leave this summer because Radetzky hasn't signed a new contract yet, and Frankfurt told him that if he doesn't sign a new contract till last Friday, he will be sold this summer. So they need 2 new goalkeepers. The second goalkeeper from Bayern Munich, their reserved goalkeeper, has been mentioned a few times, so that's Sven Ulreich. I'm not sure if that's true, but that's the only link I've seen so far. In addition to that, Frankfurt has a huge problem in their center of their defense, because after the loanies left the club, they only have David Abraham, who is their first choice center back, and then Ordonez, who came from Latin America in the winter break and hasn't really played a lot of football yet, and Marco Rus, who has recovered from his cancer but isn't at the highest level yet. So there is also another need for a new centre back. On the fullback positions, I think they are have good enough options. Bastiano Cipka and Tabata on the left, and Chandler and the new signing from Leverkusen, Da Costa, on the right. So that shouldn't be a problem, because Varela leaves to Manchester United and Riegel has personal problems with the coach. So he's also likely to go this summer, but they are fine there. In midfield, they have Omar Mascarell, who has been fantastic this season, but Real Madrid has a 4 million buyback option for him, so that could be a problem as well. And Hasebe has been injured this season, as well as Max Stendera. Nobody really knows if they can come back to their better performances. Medojevic is running out of contract, so in defensive midfield you basically only have Hasebe and their new signing from France, who previously played for Freiburg, Gelson Fernandez. I haven't seen a lot of him, but it only seems to be a backup option because he's nowhere near Hasebe or Mascarell's level from what I've read. On the attacking positions, there has been their new record signing, Sebastian Haller from Utrecht in the Netherlands, for 7 or 8 million euros. Well, that's quite a big deal for Frankfurt, because they've never spent that much money, especially in the last years. Their last big transfers are 4 or 5 years ago. So we will see how that turns out, because Seferovic, their previously first choice striker, is leaving to Benfica Lissabon. Meyer, who obviously won the Torjägerkanone a few years ago, is also not getting younger, so has been injured a lot this season, and you can't rely on a mid-30-year-old striker to, score more than 10 goals a season. So that's a sensible option. Rigotta is their other striker who has been unfortunate this season, but I think that Rigotta and Haller are good options for the attack. And then obviously one of Manu's favorite players, Marco Fabian, in central of the midfield with Mijat Gacinovic. And that's fantastic for the system from Niko Kovac, the 3-4-3, with Gacinovic and Fabian behind the striker, so they are fine there. The problem that just come out is that they haven't triggered their option to buy Rebic from Florence, which is, very weird, considering that it was only like 3 million euros or something like that, and he has consistently performed the season. So, I'm not really understanding that decision from the club, because they definitely need another backup for Gacinovic and Fabian, because Wolf and Tarashay, as I've mentioned, are only on loan there, and Danny Blum is not Bundesliga level. He's just a fast and direct winger, but not good enough to start for you every weekend. So to break it down, they definitely need 1 or 2 goalkeepers, 1 or 2 center backs, and another winger. And I think then they will be fine. Their squad looks quite good, but as long as the 50+1 rule stands, as we've discussed earlier, there won't be a significant increase in quality in Frankfurt, and hopefully they will be able to follow up on the season's 10th place, because the squad this season was definitely not as good as they have performed in the first half of the season, and I was quite glad that they finished in 10th position if you've told me that at the start of the season. So yeah, I think that they are fine if they address these few issues that they have left, and 4 or 5 transfers have to be made because the departing loan players, but in general, I'm looking it's looking positive in Frankfurt, and I think that Kovac and Hübner know what they do.
Good Lord, Max! It felt like I was Santa Claus, and you were a little boy sat on my knee, reading out your wish list for Christmas. It sounds like they've got quite a few signings to do there if they're to really get the side that the fans want. But one man who has made a rather large money move over, in fact, the highest in U.S. history, is John Brooks. He's moved to Wolfsburg from Hertha Berlin. Chris, what can you tell us about John Brooks and this transfer? I mean, is this a good move for Wolfsburg? And how is he seen in the Bundesliga?
Well, he's a brilliant defender, isn't he? It's a very odd move for me. I can only presume that Wolfsburg was really well sold to him by Rebbe and Jonker in the meeting that they must have had, because Hertha Berlin qualified for the Europa League next year, and as we all know, Wolfsburg were in the relegation playoff. So for him to drop down, or reportedly drop down, to a lower league placed club, it's a strange one. It's a very strange one. They've got themselves a fantastic defender, by the way, and they've also got themselves an angle into the very lucrative US market that we've seen the likes of Borussia Dortmund benefit from, especially with Pulisic, shirt sales and interest. But Wolfsburg have got themselves a really, really good player. I mean, if you consider it, it's 20 million euros, which isn't bad really for what he can bring to the side. He's left a side where he's been for a while. It's his home side. I would love to have been in the meeting that sold him Wolfsburg, because it must have been one of the best pitches of all time. Wolfsburg are a big club. We all know that, and they're backed very well by a massive conglomerate. So maybe Wolfsburg have got good things happening for them. We read all about what would happen if they went down. The funding from Volkswagen would be cut dramatically, and that hasn't happened. So it's still a very, very odd move. Manu, I'd be really interested to see what you think of this move. Do you feel it's a little bit of a downward move for him?
Yeah, I had to laugh when I saw this. Sales pitch was, if you come to Wolfsburg, you can still live in Berlin. So there's that.
Well, yeah, I know it's only an hour's train, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the best thing about Wolfsburg, isn't it? That's what Draxler said, not me. It's a lovely city. Anyways, I think this is a very good deal for Hertha. To be really honest, it's John Brooks is a good defender. He's a talented defender, but he was always. I thought he would be heading to England, and that would have been probably something that would have suited him more. And I don't mean the demeaning at all. I just think that that's a league that his playing style suits well. I think from what I've heard in Berlin when I was there in the press stands and talking to a few people, the general feeling was that it was time to move him on, because they knew that this was the moment they could get the most money for him. And the reason for that is because his development is not progressing. So they thought that he's already at what you get from him now is what you're always going to get, despite the fact that he's still young. And they have a very, very talented defender in the ranks, and that's Jordan Riga, who is a German U20 national team player, very, very talented player. And they basically said, look, we'll take the 20 million euros. We're going to be able to take that money and invest it. And they did. They bought Davy Selke, right? They're going to move to play with 2 strikers next season. and we're going to make space to allow one of the biggest talents in German football to play. And I think that's actually a very, very smart piece of business. Now, John Brooks, you mentioned the American market. I think it's very ironic that the most expensive American player of all time is actually German. So that's definitely, I'm always curious, because you hear a lot about John Brooks and the States, but he's one of those players that were brought in by Jürgen Klinsmann, right? So it'd be interesting to see if he will have the same kind of impact than Pulisic has with Dortmund in terms of marketing, because Pulisic is actually born and bred American, right? So really interested to see that. But, regardless, Wolfsburg, they are going to be mentioned more in American media. I do live in North America, and I am a slave to the Fox Sport channel, and get to see the commentaries. And they focus quite a lot on the American players in the league. So I think Wolfsburg will get a lot more mentions now.
Manu, another side that are going to be looking to obviously invest, I'm sure young talent, but also maybe experienced as they've just been promoted, is Stuttgart. They've had a little bit of a structure change at the club there. It's, Mercedes have a smaller ownership as such. I mean, what exactly is going on there? To kind of tie our two topics together, the ownership rule and transfers. I mean, what exactly is going on there?
This is a very interesting story, actually, because this was happening while everything was going down at 1860. So the two big investment stories of the week, and Stuttgart is a big story because, Max, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they basically had a membership vote to make the company that runs the soccer part of the club, so the football club, an external company, an AG, similar to what Bayern has and similar to what Dortmund has. So a share company, closed share company. And then Mercedes bought, I think they invested 50 million euros. Is that right, Max?
Yeah, I think so. Something in that region, yes.
7% of the shares were bought by Mercedes for 50 million euros. That's a lot of money. It allows them to basically go up in the league, and that money, from what I've heard, can be all invested into the squad and into the youth infrastructure. So they are basically they're not going to be a normal promoted side. I don't want to say they're going to be like Leipzig, because obviously it's a very different story, but don't be surprised if they have a very strong run next year in the Bundesliga, because it's a very good side already. It's definitely was an accident that they got relegated the year before last year. So I expect big things to happen in Stuttgart, and they now have the structure to allow them to become a big side. And this is something, Stuttgart has been a club that has really bothered me over the last 5 years, because I always saw them as one of those clubs that should be challenging Bayern. Stuttgart is like Munich, one of the richest cities in Germany. It has like Munich has a strong car maker and a lot of financial institutions in the city. And there's a lot of money in that city. And yet Stuttgart has never been able to do what Bayern has done in Munich. And that's how it's bothered me. And I think with this new structure, they could do it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting times. We're going to be keeping tabs on them and obviously the 1860 situation saga over the next few months. But something else rather large happened this week. And to your side, Chris, Borussia Dortmund, a bit of a managerial change there. I mean, what exactly has happened, and what's going to happen in the next few days by the looks of things?
Well, unless you've been living in a cave without any sort of phone signal or internet access, Thomas Tuchel left Dortmund earlier on this week. We discussed it last week, didn't we? We said it was 50-50. Evidently, it was a little bit more than 50-50 because the meeting lasted apparently 23 minutes, and he left. And Thomas Tuchel is renowned for doing things his own way, and when he left, he rang the newspaper, didn't he, and said, I was left. And then he set up a Twitter account and tweeted it, which I think is absolutely brilliant. So well done, Thomas Tuchel, for embracing.
It's still up.
Yeah, it's still up. It was still up, and it was verified within minutes.
Oh, that's just brilliant.
He tweeted out to a couple of players last night, Khedira and someone else. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, he tweeted out saying congratulations and unlucky. So yeah, he's using it. And so who's going to be his replacement? We thought Lucien Favre, we've said it for a while, haven't we? But it looks like Dortmund weren't able to come to a severance package there. So it looks like Peter Bosz is set to be the new head coach. Ajax's manager, or soon to be ex-manager, from chats I've had and from people I've spoken to, and also from reading some more media reports this morning, that's pretty much a done deal. They're just going to have to set up a severance package with Ajax, whether it's €5 million or a little bit more, we'll have to wait and see. I think he is completely the right coach. We've seen what he's done with the youngest squad in Europe. Within Ajax, he got them to the Europa League final. Maybe a little naive in the final display against Manchester United, but if he was to come in, he will work with one of the best young squads the league has got to offer. And we've said again on this pod a few times that Borussia Dortmund are a giant waiting to explode with the amount of youth talent they've got. And also, he may get to play Alexander Isak, who, by all accounts, was one of the straws which broke the camel's back. Thomas Tuchel didn't ask for him, came into work one day and was told he had him. So there's a lot of discourse going on in the background there. It's done now, it's gone. Let's move forward. Let's look at what the future brings. I thank Tuchel for some great times, unbeaten for 2 seasons at home. Unbelievable still now. Pokal victory was a real good send-off. And now it's just looking forward to what can happen. And Peter Bosz could be just what the league needs. And I think he could be just what Borussia Dortmund need, because that Ajax squad played some of the most exciting football I've seen in a long time. And at times, Borussia Dortmund did that last season.
Chris, I mean, obviously we spoke about Favre coming in. We were pretty sure that was going to happen. What's the likelihood of this then managerial appointment happening? Is it practically a done deal, or how can we possibly tell?
Oh yeah, like I just said, it pretty much the noises that are coming out is it's a done deal. It's just a severance package that has to be agreed, and exactly how much that is, whether it's 4 or 5 or €5.5 million. And once that's agreed and paid, then it will probably be announced. Now, I'll be surprised if it wasn't done before Tuesday. The Favre was they just couldn't come to an agreement with the club to let him go, so they moved on very quickly. They're not going to hang about in appointing a manager, because they need to get ready for pre-season and for that all-important Asian tour, which will generate a lot of cash for the club. So I would expect this to be done by Tuesday latest.
Yeah, I would say Tuesday, Chris, because tomorrow is a holiday here. And
every day's a holiday, Manu. Everywhere we shut the other Thursday. Got to Wolfsburg 3 hours early, and everywhere we shut.
Welcome to Germany. But yeah, I don't think much is going to happen tomorrow. I expect Tuesday. But I mean, all indications are that that's the guy that they're going to land. And I was people who listen to this pod regularly know I've lived in Amsterdam, and I was a huge fan of what Ajax did last year in the Europa League. I have a very close attachment to that club in particular as well. And I think 22.9 was the average squad age last season. And the football that they played was breathless at times. So if he can copy this at Dortmund with the young guns that they have there, of course, at a little bit higher level, I think we're in for a treat.
And I mean, Manu, as for Thomas Tuchel, where do we think he's going to end up?
Well, I just read, actually just now, his manager, agent, Mein King, a very popular figure in Dortmund, by the way. He said it's not going to be Leverkusen. So we'll see.
Okay, interesting. Max, would you have Thomas Tuchel at Frankfurt, or what's the Frankfurt fans' opinions of him?
Yeah, the general opinion on Thomas Tuchel, I think not just in Frankfurt, but in whole of Germany, is that he's a great tactical manager, and that he is, one of the most promising managers in Germany next to Nagelsmann. But I don't even think that he would consider coming to Frankfurt, because from Mainz to Dortmund is a step in another league. And if he now comes back to the mid-table sides, I personally can't see that happening. I was quite surprised that he turned down Bayer Leverkusen, even though I don't know if they really offered him the job. But I expect him to end up not necessarily in Germany, but definitely at the Champions League club, because he is good enough to do that. And as you've mentioned last week on the podcast, it is not down to his quality, but more due to his character that he had problems with Watzke, and that's the reason why he got sacked. And I just think that he is now waiting, similar to Jürgen Klopp after he left Dortmund, for one of his favorite clubs, bigger clubs around Europe, to sack the manager, and then he will come in. I totally can see him going to England or going to even Netherlands, back to Ajax, who knows, but to a club that is very, very much in another position than Eintracht Frankfurt. So he is definitely capable of managing a club that is regularly competing for the Champions League in the future if he has the backing from the club. So I really hope for him personally, because I like his style, that he ends up at a club where he can stay longer than 2 or 3 seasons and build a legacy there wherever he ends up in the near future.
Yeah, no, Max, I think that his big problem is lack of people skill.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's something he needs to learn. But yeah, I think he has a fantastic future ahead of him, especially if he learns from this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you consider the things he did in the past, the way he left Mainz wasn't really the way the club wishes that the manager handles his contract, because he basically walked out and he then had loose contact to Hamburg and more or less confirmed to Hamburg that he will sign for them, and then suddenly ended up in Dortmund. So he has to change the way he behaves to the officials, and then I think that there will be a positive time ahead for him.
Yeah, well, how about, Max, I just throw him onto that Christmas list for you there at Frankfurt, and we'll see what we can do. But guys,
they have a great coach in Frankfurt. They have a great coach there.
They do, but you never know, right? He could be second in charge or something. I don't know. But yeah, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. I think we've went on long enough. We've covered enough ground. You know, the games have stopped, but there's still plenty to talk about, isn't there? Max, where can people find your stuff? And have you got anything to plug before you go? We've really appreciated having you on here this week.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Sefendo, that's Sefendo. And if you want to find out a little bit more about the 50+1 rule, I wrote a very short and basic article about the rule and the problems the rule brings with itself on my own blog, that's sefendo.wordpress.com. And yeah, thanks a lot for the opportunity to talk to you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon. I think that more or less does it for us. We'd just like to say, stay in touch or get in touch with us. We're going to have plenty of articles on the Football Grad account and the network. Football Grad Live is where you can find us on Twitter. Also on Gegenpressing at Gegenpress FGN, the Gegenpressing pod Twitter page. We're going to have plenty coming your way in the next few weeks, whether it's articles or online, and of course on here. But until then, auf Wiedersehen.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt. Als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen, dich abzuholen.
We can get anything delivered from furniture to toilet paper. And now, adult beverages with Drizzly. Drizzly lets you compare prices from local liquor stores on a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits, then get them delivered right to your door in under 60 minutes. And right now, Drizzly's giving all new customers $5 off their first order. Just enter promo code EASY5 at checkout. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com.
It wouldn't be the holiday season if there wasn't candy, right? Celebrate the holiday season with the Holiday Crush. They've sprinkled candy with a holiday theme and fun-packed challenges every week for 5 whole weeks, finishing on January 4th. The more challenges you complete, the better your chances of unwrapping delicious rewards. So, are you ready to crush the holidays? Play the Holiday Crush now. Download it from the App Store, Google Play, or Windows Store for free. Terms and conditions apply. It wouldn't be the holiday season if there wasn't candy, right? Celebrate the holiday season with the Holiday Crush. They've sprinkled candy with a holiday theme and fun-packed challenges every week for 5 whole weeks, finishing on January 4th. The more challenges you complete, the better your chances of unwrapping delicious rewards. So, are you ready to crush the holidays? Play the Holiday Crush now. Download it from the App Store, Google Play, or Windows Store for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.